I received the wedding invitation card and a golden envelope. My name was written on the envelope, Miss Ruth. The groom's name was what stopped my breath, Michael Oluwafemi, my own Michael. I sat on my bed in Gwarimpa, the Harmattan wind brushing through the window, and stared at it until the edges of the paper blurred with my tears. I didn't need to read the rest. I already knew the venue, somewhere in Asokoro, a cathedral where people like me only visit to serve or sweep. That night, I didn't cry because I lost him. I cried because I knew I was never meant to have him. We met 2 years ago, on a rainy Thursday that smelled of dust and diesel. I was waiting for a tricycle at the junction near Apple Bridge, carrying a torn nylon bag filled with vegetables I had bought for Mama. My slippers had already broken, and the rainwater soaked through my feet. A black Prado stopped beside me. The tinted window rolled down, and a voice said, "Hey, you'll catch cold. Can I drop you somewhere?" At first, I thought he was mocking me. Rich men in Abuja sometimes did that to girls who looked like me. But his eyes were soft, not the kind that looked through you, but the kind that saw. "I'm just going to Gwarimpa village," I said shyly. He smiled. "Perfect, that's on my way." That was how Michael entered my life, not like lightning, but like soft rain that didn't stop. He was a 34-year-old architect living in Asokoro. His father was a retired diplomat. His mother owned a fashion company. I found out later that his life was made of quiet privilege, old wine, dated houses, and polished dreams, but he didn't act like them. He would sit with me on a wooden bench by Mama's kiosk and eat fried yam with toothpicks. He said he missed real food. He never cared when children from the street ran up to him calling Ogo white shirt, or when the men at the barbershop whispered behind his car. At night, he would text me, long messages filled with things like, "I don't know what peace is, but when I hear your voice, it feels like it." I wasn't used to words like that. I had never been anyone's peace. I had only been the helper, the errand girl, the girl people forgot until they needed something. But with him, I became someone that mattered. He taught me how to use Google Maps. I taught him how to eat corn straight from the fire without burning his hands. He said he wanted to marry a woman who could calm his storms. And sometimes when he held me, I believed he meant me. But Asokoro and Gwarimpa are not just names. They are two different worlds. His friends called me the experiment. His mother called me the distraction. One evening, I overheard her when I mistakenly picked his call on speaker. "Michael, please stop embarrassing us. How can a man like you be seen with a girl from that kind of place?" He didn't know I heard it. He came that night with suya and malt, pretending everything was normal. I laughed with him, but something broke quietly inside me. Months passed. I noticed his messages became shorter. His visits came less often. He started ending calls with, "Let's talk later, Ruth." Later started to stretch into forever. One afternoon, I went to his office in my tama to surprise him. I wore my best gown, a blue one that Mama had sewn from leftover fabric. The receptionist looked at me like I didn't belong. When she called upstairs, she said, "A Miss Ruth is here to see you," and I heard the pause that followed. He came down 15 minutes later, not smiling. There was a woman beside him, tall, elegant, dressed in gold and perfume that cost more than my monthly allowance. He introduced her as Tola, my fiancé. The word hit like thunder. I forced a smile. I said congratulations even when my throat burned. He said, "Ruth, we'll talk later." But I knew that kind of later. I turned and walked out before the tears could embarrass me in his world of marble floors. For weeks, I didn't leave my mother's shop. Mama noticed. She said, "Men like that don't marry women like us. Don't let your tears insult God's plan." But I couldn't explain to her that Michael wasn't just a man like that. He was home. Every sound reminded me of him. The hum of his car, the tone of his laugh, the scent of his cologne that refused to leave my scarf. I deleted his number 3 times and still memorized it in my head. I tried to hate him, but how do you hate someone who once looked at you like sunlight? Then came the invitation. Gold envelope, white ribbon. His handwriting still neat and calm. It said, "Michael and Tola invite you to share in their joy." I didn't know what joy meant anymore. The day of the wedding, I wore a simple gown and stood across the street from the church. Cars with tinted windows drove in. Cameras flashed. Choirs sang. I watched him step out, tall, radiant, exactly how I remembered him, except his eyes looked tired. When he smiled for the cameras, I knew it wasn't real. He looked like a man performing peace. Tola held his arm, and for a second, he looked across the road. Our eyes met. Time froze. There were no words, just two people who once held forever in their hands, but dropped it somewhere between class and choice. Then he looked away, and that was how I knew. Love doesn't always die. Sometimes it just gets buried alive. I walked away before they exchanged vows. I took a cab home, removed the envelope from my bag, and burned it behind Mama's shop. As the gold paper turned black, I whispered, "You can marry her, Michael, but your name will still hurt." Months passed. He didn't call, and I didn't expect him to. But one night, while frying puff puff for the kids nearby, I saw his car again. He stepped out, no ring on his finger. He said, "Ruth, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought love wasn't enough." I looked at him and smiled weakly. "You thought wrong," I said. He wanted to talk, but I couldn't let him. Some things are better left broken. Before he left, he looked at me one last time and said, "You're still the calm I can't find anywhere else." And just like that, he was gone again. Now, when I pass couples holding hands at Jabi Lake, I smile for them, not because I envy them, but because I hope they never have to feel what it's like to love someone who belongs to a world that doesn't recognize you. Love didn't break me. It simply reminded me that sometimes the people meant to stay are the ones who come to teach you how to let go. Michael taught me that. He taught me that even soft love can hurt loud, and that sometimes peace is learning to live with memories that never fade, like perfume on an old scarf. So if you ever meet a man from Asokoro who says he'll love you forever, remember my story. Forever sometimes ends in gold envelopes. Thank you so much for supporting Story Legion. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more stories. Your continued support means a lot to us. Please be reminded also that our folk tales and engaging stories are now only on Mondays and Saturdays, while we bring you crime stories and news every Wednesday and Friday. We love you all.